Hello, and welcome to a new season of the Oak Spring podcast. On this episode, we're going to take a look back at what horses meant to Mr. Mellon and Oak Spring. The name of Mr. Paul Mellon is synonymous with thoroughbred breeding and racing. His reputation is legendary when we think of some of the greatest racehorses of the modern era. It is true to say that were it not for his love of horses and bold ambitions to establish a premier breeding and racing program, Oak Spring would not exist. His choice of location was well considered for the rich pastures that have for generations bred horses for multiple purposes. The land on which we stand today is the centre of arguably the premier horse mecca of the world, known for its rich and diverse equine history. And so knowing how the abundant limestone in the soil enriches the skeletal development of horses, Mr. Mellon established his carefully selected breeding stock and began racing under the banner of Rokeby Stables in 1948, with the long view to success. And success he achieved with a consistency that was to become the envy and respect of the sport of kings worldwide. In total, his horses won more than 1,000 stake races. Mr. Mellon achieved lasting success as both an owner and breeder. He was honoured with the Eclipse Award for Outstanding Breeder in 1971 and 1986, and he campaigned Hall of Fame members, Arts and Letters, and Fort Marcy. Among his many champions are the Kentucky Derby and Travers winner Sea Hero, the Belmont winner Quadrangle, as well as Key to the Mint and Run the Gauntlet. Along with his success in America, Mr. Mellon had a prominent European division of horses, primarily trained by Ian Balding in Highclere, England, including multiple champions Mill Reef, Glint of Gold, and Golden Ivory. Perhaps his most famous, and for whom there are statues around the world, was the Rokeby-bred Mill Reef, who won the Epsom Derby and Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, among other Group 1 events. Mr. Mellon is the only individual to win the Kentucky Derby, Epsom Derby, and Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. He was trustee of the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame, and one of only 6 individuals to be named on Exemplar of Racing by the museum. Mr. Mellon was inducted into the English Jockey Club Hall of Fame in 1989, and the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame in 1999. He also served as Vice Chairman of the Jockey Club, Director of the Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation, and maintained key leadership and support roles with the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame and the National Steeplechase Association. He received the Eclipse Award of Merit in 1993, just 6 years before his death. Mr. Mellon's dedication to equine welfare was widely recognised. He donated and bequeathed millions of dollars to support equine research and thoroughbred aftercare programs. Today, we are blessed with the memories of these iconic horses and the land on which they were bred. And as we walk the quadrangle of the Broodmare Barn, we are reminded of those champions and will forever owe a debt of gratitude to Mr. Mellon's deeply held passion for and commitment to the horse. I recently had the opportunity to meet Dr. John Mayo, who was the primary equine veterinarian at Rokeby Stables. Dr. Mayo now enjoys his retirement in nearby Warrington and shared many memories of his time here caring for some of the finest racehorses ever produced in this country. And I was thrilled to hear that he actually foaled the Great Mill Reef. It's almost hard to know where to begin, so I want to actually backpedal a little bit to the start of your career and when you graduated from Georgia Vet College in 1959. Your journey from there to actually meeting Mr. Mellon and becoming his primary vet.
Well, from graduating from Georgia, I went to Lexington, Kentucky to work for a short while to get some experience. And I knew I wanted to come back to Virginia and to this northern Virginia area because I had spent a lot of time up here with my parents, and I knew a lot of the horse people, which was an advantage, really. So on coming back from Lexington, I joined with Dr. Howard just outside of Warrington here, who was one of the few equine practitioners in the area at the time. And we worked together to build up a really good practice. Dr. Howard was at that time doing Rokeby's farm veterinary work, although it was very limited. There wasn't the horse population that it grew to. It was small, and the horse manager was a man named Dishman, who only was there probably a year and a half or so after I joined, and he and Dr. Howard worked together. George Comer replaced Mr. Dishman when he retired. George and Dr. Howard didn't really get along all that well, and I fortunately got along with George real well. So he started using me entirely as his vet on the farm rather than Dr. Howard, which Dr. Howard accepted because he was trying to retire anyway. So that's how I became involved with Rokeby, and I worked with Rokeby as their head veterinarian until 1998 when I retired from practice.
So what year was it that you first arrived then at Rokeby, and actually when you took over as the primary veterinarian?
Well, I started doing some Rokeby work when Dr. Howard wasn't available in the 1960-61. In 62 is when Mr. Dishman retired and George Comer took over. And that's when I started doing full-time Rokeby.
How many horses would they have there at that time then, Johnny? Because they had the fox hunters as well as the thoroughbred mares and your yearlings, of course. The whole breeding program came out of Rokeby. So give us an idea of what that looked like in terms of the number of horses that they would have had at the different barns and that you would have been responsible for.
Well, when I first started working, the number of horses were pretty limited. We had, maybe if I remember correctly, around 8 or so mares and foals. We had the yearlings that were the product of those mares there. Mr. Mellon had his hunter barn that had 2 or 3 or so hunters in it. And that was, we had some retired horses and a few layups from the racetrack, and that was that. But after that, each year it slowly grew in numbers. Mr. Mellon was adding more mares to the, and as we added, the mares were the backbone of the farm. As the mares' numbers grew, then the number of yearlings grew, and then more horses went to the track, and some came back to be laid up and rest. Others were retired, and they were brought back to the farm and turned out in the back fields to live life until they got to the point that we had to put them down. And then we had a burial site area where we would put them down, and we would bury all the horses on the farm.
Where was the burial site then? Explain that to people who are now coming to Oak Spring for the first time, where they would find this burial place.
Well, the burial site was way back beyond the greenhouse and back over towards what they call Sunridge Farm. There was a field back there, had a lot of trees in it, but it's a pretty insignificant area, and there are no markers or anything. I mean, we would put them down, they would dig a grave and put them in it, cover it up, and that was it.
How many horses would be buried back there then, John?
Oh, that's a lot on it knows. Probably 20, 25 or so. A lot of the horses, I mean, he would either retire and he would give a lot of the horses away when they finished racing. He gave my daughter a beautiful native dancer horse that she showed and hunted all the time. And he gave my wife, when her old hunter went bad, he gave her a big strapping horse off the track that she made into an outstanding hunter with Piedmont. And he was always doing things like that, a very, very gracious person.
And all of these horses, John, for those who are listening who don't know about thoroughbred breeding, but everything at Rokeby had the most exquisite breeding. I mean, the breeding lines, the pedigree lines there of these horses was outstanding. I mean, you'll find Nyako and Hyperion, you'll find Man of War. Man of War, I think, is probably in just about every lineage somewhere, but he's actually on Milan Mills' side, I think, Man of War, but he wasn't on the sire's side, and actually on Glint of Gold too. I can't emphasize enough for those who are not familiar with this, John, the quality of breeding, the quality of the standards, and to your point, how important the mares were. But you can find one classic winner after another behind the horses that were at Rokeby, and then you come forward to all the progeny. And, you know, I think of Shirley Heights, for example, was one of Mill Reef's that went on to win the Derby. I mean, we could go on. We could have a whole program just talking about the breeding. But just to emphasize the point, when Mr. Mellon was so generous in giving these horses away, these were from some of the best breeding in the U.S. at the time.
Yes, and now I got involved with what you're saying is true. The mares were so well bred, and they were being bred to the top horses in the country, that when it came foaling time, the farm manager wanted me there, period. Nothing other than you be here in case something would go wrong. And as a result of that, I got to foal a lot of top horses in this country, including Mill Reef, Sea Hero, Fort Marcy. You can go down Arts and Letters. These are all top stake horses and winners of the Derby. And
let's not forget Glint of Gold.
Pardon?
Glint of Gold.
What about it?
You foaled Glint of Gold?
Anything that foaled on the farm, I foaled. Starting in 62 and going to 97.
62 to 97. Well, that captures really all of his, all of the lineage there and all of the progeny. And I know Mill Reef was born in 68. Am I right? 68. Okay, 68. I think I'm pretty right in saying that. And for those who visited Oak Spring, or I hope come to Oak Spring in the future, you will know about Mill Reef the minute you walk into the broodmare barn, which was the broodmare, because he has the statue there right in the middle, which is beautiful. I had the good fortune of meeting Mill Reef back when he was standing at stud in the National Stud in Newmarket, England. And I was struck by how small he was.
We had some big yearlings, we had some smaller yearlings, and everything in between. The mares they grew, we would send the yearlings, when they started racing, if a filly turned out to be a good race filly, a mare, won good stake races or the better races, then when they were retired, they came back, and this is what built up the broodmare in his farm. And those, when they got too old to breed anymore, they were retired, but we had a constant turnover every so often of broodmares, and the numbers would increase. But as I have said, we probably averaged 16 to 18 mares, and everyone was foaled at the farm. He made a point of foaling everything on the farm, and then if the foaling went fine and the mares did well in the foaling and cleaned up well afterwards, then we would ship the mare and foal to Kentucky, where the majority of them were bred to the better stallions on about 7 days after they were foaled. And at that point, they would stay out there until they were pronounced in foal, and then the mare and foal were returned to Rokeby. And so at the end of the breeding season, which was generally in the middle of June, we would have all the mares and their foals back on the farm. And then they would spend the summer and early part of the fall in the broodmare barn area. The yearlings that were down in the yearling barn, when it came fall, they would first have the trainer from England, generally Ian Baldwin, come over and pick out 3 or 4 or maybe 5 at the most to be sent to England. That's how Mill Reef got to England. And once they were selected and sent off, the rest of the yearlings in the early part, all the yearlings were just sent down to South Carolina or to St. Lucie in Florida to be broken and trained and to get ready to race as 2-year-olds the following year. After George Comer, the farm manager, retired, Bernie Garrison came in as a new farm manager. Also, Elliot Birch was replaced by Mac Miller as Mr. Mellon's trainer in this country. And at that point, they decided to start breaking the yearlings at Rokeby. And they would bring in, gather up 4 or 5 girls or boys, and they would do the breaking of the yearlings there at the farm. The barn was a shed row barn and built for this kind of stuff. And then they were ridden out through the fields in groups like they do in England and all. And once they were broken and being ridden regularly, then they would be sent down to St. Lucie Training Center in Florida, or to where they would finish their training and be ready to be sent to the tracks in the springtime, depending on what they look like. And Mr. Mellon rarely sold at any of the sales, but occasionally, if something looked like it wasn't going to be very good, he would sell it or give it to somebody.
I want to go back to Milan Mill, the dam of Mill Reef. Yeah, and I'm just wondering, because you were there foaling all of these wonderful racehorses, do you remember that foaling? Was that straightforward?
Honestly, I don't remember that foaling. I foaled so many there over the years, I couldn't say that I remember that one particularly.
But when you look back, though, John, and I hope you do, because you've been associated with so many great horses over your career, there must have been some really special moments, and I think it seems to me, from what you've told me, you had a very special and wonderful relationship with Mr. Mellon, and of mutual respect and admiration, and, of course, your shared passion of horses. But I'm wondering if there were any standout moments that you reflect on today during your career there and your time at Rokeby.
Well, generally, luckily, things generally ran pretty smoothly. Occasionally we would have a hiccup, a horse would get hurt or something of that nature, and we'd have a problem. But as a rule, it's too many years that passed for me. The only one real foaling that I remember and will always remember, and it didn't involve Rokeby, it was Pleasant Colony at Buckland. When I was there the night that the mare foaled, and when we got the foal, we had to pull the foal a little bit. And when he finally popped out, it was the ugliest foal I thought I had ever seen. He had a head a mile long, he was big, he was skinny, and he had 4 legs that went in 4 different directions. And I told the manager, Don Robertson, I said, Don, this has got to be a good horse, because he can't be this ugly and not be. And of all the foaling I've done, that one sticks in my mind.
Going back to all of those wonderful horses at Rokeby, I'm wondering if you attempted to follow all their careers. I mean, there's just so many, and they were all going in different directions, mainly to Ian Boulding. If they went to England to train, they went to Ian Boulding. But did you follow them? When you look at the record, John, is extraordinary. The wins that they had in just about every classic race. I mean, you look just at Mill Reef. He won the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, he won the Epsom Derby, he won the Eclipse, I think he won the King George. I'm sure I'm missing some other classic, but overall, that program produced so many winners in so many classic races around the world. These just weren't American bred on American turf. These were around the world. It is an extraordinary legacy when you look at that program. And you must have been extremely proud to know that you foaled so many of these great horses, but when you look at their career, there must have been moments when you switched on the TV and watched these horses winning that were very special.
Yes, very special. I still watch the races at times, particularly the stake races. Yeah. Saratoga, we got the Travis coming up next month. But, Derby, I watch the races from Ascot all week when they're on. And, it's good to look back on and know you had something to do with a lot of them. And it's something you take a lot of pride in. I do, that I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where I got to work with all these good horses and good people all around the industry. Yeah.
And in terms of the relationship you had when you had that, it was a working relationship, obviously, and it was professional at the highest stakes professionally, because these horses were so valuable. I think I've looked at Mill Reef's winnings over time, and which now I think amounts to something like $3 million. It was only in 6 figures. It was only about 300,000 or something back in the early 70s, because he had a short career, of course. It was cut short by him breaking his leg in training. And I think for those that are not familiar with what that means to a racehorse, if it wasn't for his breeding potential, he might have been euthanized on the spot with the broken leg, because it was a very badly broken leg, I believe, and that it was successful, and then he went on to be such a successful breeding stallion over the years. But I'm wondering, when you look at those different horses and the different successes that they had, that you don't just pinch yourself and think, I could have, that was me. I was part of that, and I was part of the success.
Yes, you look back at somebody my age, you can't do anything but look back. I don't have much to look forward to except to sit here. But anyway, I think one thing a lot of people didn't realize, Mr. Mellon had steeplechase horses also. And Jack Skinner was a trainer in this country, and I don't know who trained them in England, but if they looked like they would run over fences, he loved the steeplechasing.
Yeah.
And
also, we mentioned a little bit about the fox hunting. He loved his fox hunting. Let's talk about the hunters that were lucky enough to be ridden by Mr. Mellon.
Yes, he was an adamant fox hunter, and fox hunted quite often as his time permitted. And he also loved to do the 100-mile ride in Hot Springs at the homestead. He would go up every year, and he and Christmas Goose, his good horse, they won it one year, and he would have won it the next year, except his groom made a mistake, and he had come in, and the last day, and he was in the lead. The night before, the groom, he had a big fleece saddle pad that he used. His groom took it downtown and washed it, and didn't rinse it and get all the suds out of it. The next day, when they finished the ride, they took the saddle off, and they do inspections, and you could see the whole outline of the pad on the horse's back, and you couldn't touch it. It had blistered, and of course that eliminated it. But he would have won it 2 years in a row if that hadn't happened.
How many horses did he have? Did he keep fit for hunting at any one time, John?
Generally, most of the time, probably 3, but he had his favorite. And after Kennedy died, Jackie Onassis brought her. He offered to bring her horse over and keep it in the hunter stable, and she did that, and she hunted out of the stable also for a couple of years until she remarried, and off she went.
How many staff would he have had? How many grooms? And you mentioned the manager he had there whilst you were working with him, but how many grooms would they have had for these horses, do you think, roughly? I mean, I know the horses came and went, and at one time you had up to 16, 18 brood mares in, so I know that in those days there was more staff available, certainly more grooms. Do you recall how many there would have been at the peak of that program?
Not really. Every barn, the Old Yearling barn, the broodmare, and the New Yearling barn, all had at least 5 or 6 people in each one of them. And he treated all his grooms royally and gave them homes to a lot of places. And after they left him, a lot of them got retirement money. They were there a long time. But we had a good group of grooms.
And were they mostly girls, or you had a mixture of men and women?
Very few women. Actually, I don't. Other than when we were breaking the yearlings, then mostly they were all girls. But as far as the grooms go, I remember one girl out of all those years. Really, I mean, it wasn't that he was against them. It's the farm managers that had their view.
And you used to have regular meetings with Mr. Mellon then over the program?
Yes, we would meet twice or three times a year, all the key people, and go over all the horses, all the farm stuff, and any of the problems that had come up. And these were always very productive meetings. And as I had mentioned, the farm, Henry White from Kentucky would come. He's where the horses were kept out there. The trainers would come. The farm manager, who ran the farm, the horse manager, myself, and just all key people that we felt that made the farm run. We would meet 2 or 3 times a year at Mr. Mellon's house, and they were very productive meetings.
And you told me earlier that he used to produce a booklet every year of the mares that were being bred and the pedigrees and so on. Talk a little bit more about that. Did you ever have a copy of that you kept?
If I still got them, I don't know where they are. But Pam showed me one the other day that she found. This is a good friend that you had met, and she's a close friend of mine. She used to ride with Mr. Mellon when he was training for the 100-mile ride. She would bring her horse over, that horse up there, the picture of, and ride out with him just as a companion all the time. And that's how she got to know him very well. But it was, I don't know.
So, if you were to sum up your association with the Mellons, your experience with all the horses that he produced there, and your involvement with that program, what would you like people to know, John, who are coming to Oak Spring, not for the horses anymore, sadly, but for so many other things as part of the Mellons' wonderful legacy? I'm curious as to how you would sum up your memory and your passion, your experience and association with Rokeby Farm, what you would want people coming to Rokeby to know about what happened before.
Well, first of all, I consider myself extremely fortunate to be in this situation I was in with Mr. Mellon and Rokeby Farm. I mean, money was no object. Just do the best you can with the best results you can get. But one thing in our practice, which we had a 6-man equine practice that I was the senior partner, we never charged Rokeby any more than what we charged the one-horse owner. We never tried, just since they were big farm and we had most all of them in the area, we never charged extra just because we knew they had the money. They were treated, bill-wise, we billed them as if we were billing you, if you're in your horse. But it was, as I said, all Mr. Mellon wanted was do the best job you can do. And that's what we all tried to do.
If he was to walk in this room right now, John, what would you say to him that you didn't have the opportunity to say to him in his lifetime?
I would certainly welcome him in and want to know how he was doing. I don't know where it would go from there.
You would talk horses?
I'm sure we would talk the farm and horses, what was happening at the farm, and problems we might have had. But it was a joy to work for him, because you knew that money was no object and you could do the best you knew how to do, or get the best for him if you couldn't do it.
And produce some of the best race horses that we've known since the war.
Oh, by all means. They're outstanding horses. I mean, his stake race and all winnings and all go way, way for a stable like he had. It was remarkable how well he, excuse me, how well he did. But he had good people.
And a good vet.
Oh, no bad.
John, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today. It really has been a pleasure, and I envy you all your memories.
Oh, thank you, but the memories are fading.
And joining me again for the start of the season is Danielle Eady, our program director. How was your holiday break? Because it slows down quite a bit at Oak Spring over the winter, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It really slows down starting in December through January. But all the staff are all back now, and we're really excited to everything that we have planned for 2026, and looking forward to more episodes of this podcast with you, Chris.
Awesome. Well, as always, you've got a full program, and we will keep people informed of the programs that are coming, the events this year and so on, and the courses that they can apply for, all on the website, osgf.org. But first of all, let's look at the immediate future, Danielle. What have you got planned?
Yeah, so next week, and today is January 5th when we're recording this episode, just so our listeners know. So next week we have our perennial residency. We'll have, over the course of about 6 weeks, we'll have 20 alumni residents returning for stays that vary from 1 week to 4 weeks long. And these are residents who have come through the entire course of our residency. Some came as early as 2019 initially, and then some were here just this past year. So we're looking forward to reconnecting with our alumni. And then we start our programs calendar pretty immediately. So actually, some of our listeners might be interested in a screening that we're hosting on January 22nd that will be in Washington, D.C. at St. John's Parish. And that will be the second screening of the Sophie Grandival film. Sophie Grandival is an artist that Mrs. Mellon had commissioned. And it's a really beautiful film in French featuring Sophie's studio in France. And so that will be a documentary screening again on January 22nd. The tickets are available on our website. And then in early February, we will have a scholar, Giovanni Alloy, visiting us, and he will give a lecture here at Oak Spring in our granary about his new book, Botanical Revolutions, which is a global look at the place of plants and art through the centuries. A really beautiful illustrated book. And then he will be giving a second lecture in Washington, D.C., and that will be at the District Architecture Center. So we're looking forward to some of these one-off special events. And I should also say that we will also be hosting the artist Hilary Fale, who is the head of the fiber department at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, and she'll be with us on January 31st for a very special workshop about mending and repairing clothing and textile objects, and that will include a special peek into the library and a look at some of the textiles that we have here on site that Hilary can describe the techniques that were used to make them and mend them. So that's just a few things that we have coming up that we're very much looking forward to.
And in terms of the year, any major events as you unroll the year, Danielle?
This year, we have a few less of large-scale events. Last year, we had a couple really big events on site. We had the unveiling of the Degorney wallpaper, and then we hosted a photo shoot for Tiffany and Company. And this year, we're scaling back a bit on that and more focusing on our usual short courses. And we're also bringing back our usual garden tours. So we'll have the 2 tours in April with Virginia Historic Garden Week. And the day before that, on Wednesday, there will be a special garden preview, which is a special cocktail time where guests can come and experience the garden, linger a bit more, and have drinks and appetizers by our chef, Jason. So that's a special event that we'll have this year in April, and then we'll have another set of our open day tours in June, and those will also be preceded by one of these special garden preview evenings.
And in terms of applications for courses and deadlines, is there anything that our listeners should be aware of?
Yes, there are a number of applications that are currently open on our website. So we have the application for Reading the Landscape, which is one of our most popular signature classes with Michael Gage, is currently open. Michael Gage is an ecologist and really a fascinating person and speaker, and he leads the group on walks through the landscape, talking about how the way the landscape is formed, the trees that are growing, the plants that are growing, even the stone walls, how they were made and built, and what type of rock they're used, what that tells you about the ecology of this place, as well as the people who lived on this land, worked on this land previously. So that's a really interesting class that people can apply for now, and it will take place in May. And then we also are accepting applications for our class with Holly Scoggins, Springtime Perennials and Annuals. That class will take place in April, and that's what we call one of our mini hybrid classes. So before the class, students will get a couple of Zoom lectures with Holly to introduce them to the subject in our site, and then when they're in person, they'll be exploring in the garden and the greenhouses with Holly. And Holly, again, is a really phenomenal, very knowledgeable teacher. She was a professor at Virginia Tech for a long time. So really a terrific horticulturist for people who are looking to learn more about gardening and plants.
And will daffodils, be featuring us?
Yes, we do always have a few bulb-related programs. So we are no longer accepting applications, but we will have our usual From Wild Origins class, which is about all things bulb-related with Jason Delaney. That will be in early March. And he will also be doing another lecture, a library lecture on tulip mania. So that will be an evening session in early March that our listeners are welcome to register for on our website. That will include a lecture from Jason and then a time, about an hour in the library, viewing some of the incredible rare books from the collection that feature tulips and bulb plants. So that's a really fun opportunity if you're interested in learning from Jason Delaney, who is a phenomenal lecturer, person, speaker. Very much highly recommend. And then following his class, we will have a one-day lecture in our granary from Sarah Van Beck, who is another bulbs specialist. She'll be joining us, and she will speak about some of the special bulbs in Virginia and in our local area. So that's another class that some of our gardening enthusiasts and especially daffodil lovers might be interested to join. And again, the tickets for that will be on our website.
osgf.org.
Exactly.
Finally, the gallery. Is there anything new and different this year in the gallery?
Yes, so we'll have an opening in February that will be the mark of a transition. So in early February, we'll be installing our next exhibit, which is Curious Allies, which is an exhibit of lichen, fungi, and carnivorous plants. This exhibit was put together by the American Society of Botanical Artists and first shown at New York Botanic Gardens. So every 3 years, there's a triennial that's a partnership between American Society of Botanical Artists and New York Botanic Garden, and several hundred artists from around the world apply to this exhibit, and about 40 are selected. So we're really looking forward to having those 40 artworks on display in our gallery by artists all over the world, all contemporary botanical artists working in watercolor, ink, and the exhibit will also include a selection of books and manuscripts from our library collection that complement the exhibit. So if you have seen Curious Allies at New York Botanic Garden or at one of the other institutions that the exhibit has traveled to, you will see some special and unique things when it is shown here at Oak Spring, because we will have these pieces from our library collection. So we're looking forward to that, and that will also be featured in our April open days. So if you come to the April open days, you will certainly see Curious Allies then.
And what is the date? When does that run to? Danielle?
So Curious Allies will run until about mid-September.
So much happening, as always, keeping you all very busy here at Oak Spring. Is there anything else you'd like to add to our listeners with our first episode of the season?
No, well, we're glad to have our listeners back with us and looking forward to sharing more of these special stories from our visitors and friends of Oak Spring in the months to come. And that would be it. Thank you for listening and looking forward to more.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Danielle. And we'll be back, of course, next month with a new episode. As always here, don't forget to share it with your friends if you've enjoyed the show. And, of course, follow us on social media. Danielle, good luck with all of these things that you rattled off seamlessly. It seems that they're all in your head. It's a very full program. I don't know how you keep it all straight, but well done you. And thanks for sharing that. And we'll be back next month.
Thanks so much, Chris.
And as Danielle said, you can find out a lot more about the activities here at Oak Spring on the website at osgf.org. And you can also subscribe to the Oak Spring newsletter. You can also drop us a line to program@osgf.org to subscribe and for further inquiries. Please follow us on social media. We're on Instagram at Oak Spring Garden Foundation, on X at Oak_Spring, and on Facebook at Oak Spring Garden Foundation. I'll be back next month with another episode of the Oak Spring podcast. So until then, thank you for listening.